Every action aims at some good, wrote Aristotle. But what if the good we seek cannot be measured in numbers? We call success what is often only movement. The true goal, eudaimonia, is not to accumulate, but to align. It is when doing finds meaning, and time regains its value. In Nicomachean Ethics, Aristotle begins with a simple and profound question: what is the supreme good of human life? His answer is eudaimonia, a word not best translated as happiness, in its fleeting sense, but as flourishing. It is the state in which reason, virtue, and action converge toward a single purpose: to live well. For the philosopher, a full life is not the result of chance but of deliberate choices that express excellence. Just as a musician fulfills his art by playing in harmony, the human being fulfills his nature when acting with balance and wisdom. Eudaimonia is, therefore, a way of being, to live according to the best within oneself. Aristotle does not propose renunciation but proportion, a middle path between excess and deficiency, where the good is not measured by possession but by the quality of use. Aristotle begins his Nicomachean Ethics by asserting that every action aims at some good. But what happens when we confuse the good with the gain? To prosper, in modern language, has become synonymous with accumulation: more assets, more income, more status. Yet in Aristotelian thought, prosperity is not a sum, it is a form of harmony. For the philosopher, the supreme good of human life is eudaimonia, integral flourishing. It is not enough to possess resources. One must order life so that each choice expresses right reason and balanced measure. Money, when it serves virtue, becomes a means of fulfillment. When it begins to command, it becomes an obstacle to a free soul. Think of the investor who works relentlessly to double profits but sleeps anxious and wakes exhausted. His balance sheet grows, yet his clarity diminishes. Aristotle would say that he does not prosper, he merely moves. For endless action without true purpose is like running in circles. To prosper, in the ethical sense, is to act toward the good that sustains a good life. It is not to reject success but to redefine it. The professional who invests time in improving competence and uses profit to gain autonomy, not more objects, lives closer to virtue. The entrepreneur who refuses business that violates his values chooses prosperity with character, not haste. In consumption, the same logic applies. Buy less, but consciously. Choose quality and durability. Prefer experiences that broaden understanding of the world. Moderation here is not renunciation, it is strategy. Excess disperses, balance focuses. Aristotle called arete moral and practical excellence, that which turns ordinary acts into expressions of wisdom. Applied to finance, arete means spending and investing lucidly, so that each decision reflects purpose. Money ceases to be mere resource and becomes an instrument of coherence. The meaning of prospering, then, is not how much one has, but how much what one has serves the good of the rational soul. Prosperity is when capital expands life, not anxiety. It is when financial security liberates time, not imprisons it in new goals. Wealth, in this horizon, is that which sustains the essential and restores inner silence, the balance between doing, having, and being. Thus, the true Aristotelian question is not, how much is it worth, but, what is it for? To prosper, in its highest form, is to make money an extension of wisdom, not of desire. Aristotle affirmed that the good lies not in the result but in the purpose. Every choice, for him, should lead to eudaimonia, inner flourishing. Transporting this principle to our age gives rise to what we may call existential ROI, a quiet metric that measures not profit, but the impact of a decision on the quality of one's life. In business and finance, we have grown accustomed to measuring return in numbers, percentages, yields, growth. Yet the philosopher would remind us that not every gain is progress, and not every loss is harm. The true return is that which preserves the soul in peace. Existential ROI evaluates three dimensions: free time, purpose, and serenity. Free time is the most forgotten of modern riches. An investment that demands constant monitoring and continuous tension may yield 15% per year, yet it costs hours of tranquility, and the price is life itself. Aristotle would see in this a reversal, the instrument ruling over its user. Purpose measures the coherence between what one does and what one believes. A professional may achieve high positions and annual bonuses, yet if daily actions deny personal values, the emotional balance is negative. To prosper demands unity between ethics and practice, not merely efficiency. And serenity, the subtlest and dearest good of all. Inner peace cannot be bought, it is cultivated through decisions aligned with reason. The investor who chooses solid, sustainable, and comprehensible investments avoids the noise of uncertainty. The consumer who delays impulsive purchases invests in the lightness of having no regrets. A good existential ROI is not the one that multiplies figures but the one that multiplies lucidity. It returns time, clarity, and presence. When a project expands the space to think and to live, it already yields return before profit appears. Just as Aristotle saw virtue as the point of balance between two extremes, existential ROI is the middle ground between the material and the spiritual. It does not deny profit, it repositions it. Money remains necessary but ceases to be the final measure. To measure prosperity through this lens is to choose to live with intention and serenity, not haste and comparison. The true investment lies not in assets but in attitudes. For in the end, the greatest dividend of a well-managed life is the time it gives back to living itself. Aristotle taught that virtue is the mean between two vices, one of excess and one of deficiency. In financial life, this idea is a guiding light. On one side lies impulsive consumption, driven by desire and haste. On the other, avarice, driven by fear and scarcity. Wisdom inhabits the middle ground, to spend and invest with proportion, neither enslavement nor guilt. Nicomachean ethics proposes that the virtuous man acts according to reason, not emotion. Applied to money, this means cultivating moderation and discernment. Not following financial fads, not chasing immediate gains, not confusing comfort with luxury. Prosperity, for Aristotle, arises from deliberate, reflective choice, not luck or haste. Imagine an investor who, carried away by euphoria, puts all his wealth into a promise of high return. He does not act with virtue but with impulse. The gain is accidental, the loss, inevitable. The prudent investor, who diversifies, studies, and respects time cycles, practices the golden mean, courage without recklessness, caution without paralysis. The same applies to consumption. Buying what serves life is wise. Buying to fill emptiness is vice. Financial virtue is not living with the minimum but living with the necessary, neither more nor less. To enjoy a good meal, a trip, or a quality object without turning it into compulsion is moderation. Aristotle would remind us that pleasure, when tempered by reason, is legitimate. When it dominates the will, it becomes bondage. The same principle appears in work. To overwork for accumulation is excess. To neglect effort out of fear is deficiency. The balance lies in dedication with excellence, while knowing when more no longer adds value. This discernment is what Aristotle called phronesis, practical wisdom, the ability to act well in concrete circumstances. The golden mean is not a formula but a daily exercise. It is observing the extremes and finding the point where desire serves reason and money serves life. Thus, the measure of virtue becomes both economic and spiritual guidance. It protects against waste and fear, guides the investor toward consistency, teaches the consumer to choose with purpose, and restores to work its true meaning, the expression of excellence, not exhaustion. To prosper, therefore, is to find the rhythm between wanting and sufficing, the serene tempo where desire bows to wisdom and reason leads the path to freedom. Aristotle saw in everything a final cause, a purpose that defines its value. Just as the eye serves sight and the instrument serves music, money serves life. When the means become the end, imbalance arises. Man ceases to possess and begins to be possessed. In Nicomachean Ethics, he warns that true excellence lies not in external things but in the use we make of them. Wealth, therefore, is morally neutral. It can be virtue or vice, depending on the soul that governs it. Money does not corrupt by itself, it merely amplifies what is already within us. The rational soul, the one that reasons, chooses, and projects, must command the use of resources. Guided by reason, wealth becomes an ethical expression. It reveals values, priorities, and worldview. Consider the investor who applies capital in sustainable ventures, aware of social and environmental impact. He understands that capital is a form of responsibility. Likewise, the professional who devotes part of income to cultural or educational projects practices arete, the excellence that unites action and purpose. There is also the silent virtue of prudence, building an emergency fund not out of fear but clarity, avoiding debt out of respect for one's own time, planning retirement as freedom, not escape. These are gestures of practical wisdom, reason governing impulse. In consumption, this ethics manifests as conscious choice, preferring the useful over the excessive, the essential over the ostentatious. A simple, reliable car may be more virtuous than a luxury one bought for vanity. Virtue lies in the intention, to use money to sustain good living, not to display power. In business terms, Aristotle would inspire a new view of profit, not as isolated conquest but as part of a balanced cycle. Companies that grow at the cost of human exhaustion or environmental harm achieve apparent success but fail in purpose, the human good. Money, then, is a mirror. It reflects inner order. When there is clarity, it becomes a tool of creation. When confusion reigns, it fuels imbalance. Used wisely, capital ceases to symbolize status and becomes the expression of discernment. It is when the rational soul, guided by virtue, transforms resource into freedom. True possession is not of objects but of self-mastery. Thus, wealth finds its meaning, not to accumulate, but to serve the good life, where reason, ethics, and time coexist in harmony. Aristotle said that, happiness is activity of the soul in accordance with virtue. This simple, profound phrase holds the heart of his philosophy. To live well is to act well, and to act well is to live in balance. Eudaimonia is not a state of euphoria but a stable, serene condition built with constancy. It is integral prosperity, harmony among what one has, what one does, and what one is. In modern life, that harmony takes the form of financial independence, but not in the narrow sense of never having to work. Independence, in the Aristotelian spirit, is inner autonomy, the ability to choose without fear, to say, enough, without guilt, and to act according to reason, not necessity. The professional who saves and invests prudently seeks not only returns but tranquility. Each reserve is a form of future freedom, time to learn, rest, and think. He who organizes his finances to depend less on consumption and more on wisdom lives more nobly, replacing haste with clarity, impulse with intention. In investments, eudaimonia becomes coherence. Allocating resources in ethical companies or projects that promote the common good is investing not only in capital but in character. As Aristotle reminded, character is habit made stable, true prosperity is moral discipline applied daily. In personal life, the same principle emerges in small choices. Valuing time with family over extra hours, choosing to learn a craft instead of accumulating objects, planning the future without losing the present. Eudaimonia is not a destination, it is a way of walking. Integral prosperity is not measured in figures but in coherence, when finances reflect purpose, and purpose sustains finances. It is the moment money ceases to be refuge and becomes a tool, the means that protects time and expands awareness. Aristotle's legacy invites us to a rarer kind of independence, not being a slave to desire or fear. When capital aligns with virtue, profit becomes freedom, and life, once fragmented between work and dream, finds unity in the essential, the good of living according to reason, at peace with oneself and the world. Eudaimonia is the highest ROI of existence, the return in serenity, purpose, and time to be. Aristotle's philosophy offers a clear map. The purpose of every action is the supreme good, and that good is eudaimonia, the flourishing of the soul that lives in balance. Translated to our time, it means building a lucid relationship with money. Not of servitude but of mastery. To prosper is not to accumulate figures but to align resources, time, and purpose along a single axis of coherence. In practice, it begins with a simple question. What does this investment give back to my life beyond profit? If the return is purely financial, it is partial. The true gain lies in freedom of time, serenity in decision, and coherence with values. This is existential ROI, the return in peace, purpose, and autonomy. Step 1. Redefine your criteria. When assessing an investment, consider not only profitability but emotional cost. Options that require constant vigilance, disrupt sleep, and steal focus corrode the greater good, serene time. Choose what aligns with your rhythm. Even with lower percentage returns, the existential balance will be greater. Step 2. Establish financial purpose. Money without direction breeds anxiety. Money with meaning breeds peace. Ask, what do I want to sustain with what I possess? It may be family time, continuous learning, meaningful work, or support for causes that expand the common good. Clarity of purpose transforms financial planning into an ethical act. Step 3. Practice the golden mean. Moderation is not limitation, it is wisdom. Spend without guilt on what nourishes, invest courageously in what grows, and save prudently to protect future time. Avoid both impulsive spending and fear of spending, both enslave. Balance is the path to freedom. Finally, cultivate the virtue of use. Let money serve the rational soul, not fleeting desire. Use capital to create possibilities, not identities. Choose fewer possessions, more experiences. Less status, more serenity. Integral prosperity is when finances express character, when profit aligns with purpose, when free time becomes the most precious asset, for in it, the mind aligns, the body rests, and reason leads again. As Aristotle would remind us, excellence is not an act, but a habit. To live with financial wisdom is precisely that, to turn daily choices into a constant practice of balance. And in that habit, money fulfills its highest function, to sustain a good, just, and free life. If philosophy teaches us to think and finance teaches us to choose, uniting both is learning to live with direction. Reflect. What has your money been sustaining, anxiety or freedom? If the answer is unclear, perhaps it is time to realign purpose, time, and value. Begin today. Redefine your existential ROI. Invest in serenity, purpose, and lifetime, the only assets that grow the more they are shared. If this reflection helped you see money with more clarity and purpose, follow the channel.